Welcome to the Duke Management Consulting Club virtual information session. We're so happy that you all are joining us today. My name is Mary Beth White Sutton, and I'm the advisor to the DMCC, and I'm joined by two wonderful students, Harini and Isaac, whom you will get to meet shortly. Today, we're going to just have some introductory comments. You'll understand a little bit about what the three of us do, and certainly the backgrounds of each of these students. And we'll talk a little bit about the Duke Management Consulting Club and the resources that the club provides to help students be successful in their pursuit of the industry. And then we'll have time for your Q&A. So we certainly hope that you have some questions for us. So without further ado, I will just say a little bit more about myself before I turn it over to the students. I've been at Fuqua for actually going on 24 years. I have been in the field of career services almost 30 years, so I certainly enjoy helping students find meaningful and purposeful work, and certainly as it relates now to the consulting industry, which is what we'll be focusing on. But I've enjoyed being at Fuqua and love the culture and the teamwork, and have so enjoyed working with both of these students. And I'm going to turn it over to them now to introduce themselves and say a little bit about their backgrounds. Harini, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, MB. I'm Harini. I'm from India. And prior to coming to my MBA, I was in the education sector for 7 years. I began my career with Teach for India and then transitioned as a strategy associate to work with a private trust, post which I founded a nonprofit that focuses on child protection in Indian schools. Post my MBA, I wanted to get into consulting, really to get the best practices of businesses and eventually be able to marry my vision with global best practices to scale impact. And through the consulting club, I think I've been extremely supported throughout the process in both formal and informal ways. For this summer, I'll be going to BCG in Chicago, and I'm extremely excited for my summer.
Oh, nice. And then I'll go next. My name is Isaac Ayo Oyebade. I'm a second-year MBA here at Duke Fuqua, and I actually graduate in a few months, so I'm looking forward to that. Pre-MBA, I did all of my work in strategy and finance. So I did a bit of banking, more work in external audit, serving the financial services sector. And then I did financial advisory at Deloitte in London. So I kind of worked across finance and strategy for, I guess, the entire EMEA's field. This summer, last summer, I was at McKinsey's office in Dallas doing strategy work, essentially serving the energy utilities clients. And then I'll be returning to that role later this year. So looking forward to having this conversation with you guys, and thanks for joining.
And one of the things I hope you all, and you might just listen to this again, is what they did before business school, two different backgrounds, and their reasoning and interest in pursuing consulting and the ultimate outcomes of that. But it's just important to know that the industry of consulting welcomes all backgrounds, whether it's Peace Corps, corporate, education, military. I mean, it's a wonderful industry that really welcomes and understands and sees the value across all backgrounds that you all have. We are going to talk a little bit more about this club, which is, one of the premises of the session here. And I thought I'd turn it over to the students to let them talk about some events or some conferences we can see as kind of infrastructure that the club provided them, which will in turn provide you all if you were to join us. So I'll turn this over to you to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, Harini, do you want to kick off with some of the more first-year focus events, and then I'll chime in with some of these?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think the way that I was thinking about this, just before this meeting, we were looking at what all events we do. We figured it was a really long list, and if we started talking about each event, we could go on for a long time. But it's very multi-pronged in that we get support from the Career Management Center. We do a lot of one-on-one chats to have customized support. But in addition to that, we also get support from alumni conferences that are organized so that we hear from them, hear from people who are on the other side of this, and we also get a lot of support from second years. I think the things that were most helpful for me were just coming in, warming up to what consulting meant. And like she said, I didn't know how open consulting was to non-traditional backgrounds. That was a big fear of mine, but I think all of the conferences that were organized in the summer term, as soon as we stepped into fall one, meeting a lot of the second years who have come in from various different backgrounds, it showed me that this was possible, and that gave me a lot of courage through the process to actually, build my confidence and know that this is something I can do.
Yeah.
One of the most important things for me was being able to have these casing families, which I let Isaac talk about it in detail, but a lot of casing support from students who have just crossed that barrier, so they know what has happened on the ground and they have been in their internships. So with that fresh and ready perspective when they help you, I think that translates to you being successful immediately.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk a little bit more about how second years look at involvement in DNCC as well.
Yeah, thanks, Harini. So the way it works is most times when first years come to campus, the second years are going to be on internship. So immediately we come back, the first thing that second years would do is to organize a second year mixer where you essentially get to hear from the second years who had just come back from interning in the industry, and they just share the experiences, best practices for recruiting and connecting with consultants and all of that with you. But another thing that we do is the roadmap event, which kind of happens towards, I'd say, between October and December, thereabout. And it's essentially like a series of conversations where second year students essentially walk the first year student through the entire end to end of what consulting interviews and consulting applications look like. There's also something that happens right after these consulting firms release their interview list. We organize something called Casing Families, where essentially second year students adopt some first year students as their designated casing parent. And they're kind of responsible for, helping these first year students get ready for interviews. So everything from weekly or daily, bi-weekly check-ins, helping you ready for both your casing, the case part of the interview, and also the behaviorals and all of that. And then there's also a lot of programming that the firms themselves do once they release their interview list. So it's a very robust process, and I would say that the consulting club and the finance club are two of the more structured clubs in terms of recruiting. The entire end-to-end process is well thought out, and CMC, does a fabulous job of making sure that all of you are going to be ready. So I wouldn't be worried at all. Just come in and put your trust in the CMC, you'll be in great hands.
Well, I appreciate that, Isaac and Harini. And you can tell by, frankly, the enthusiasm that both of them exude that it is we are an environment that take this very seriously. Just the term of case parents, is that Isaac described is just dignifies and symbolizes the nurturing and structured focus, the team effort and spirit to do our best to help others be successful and get them across the finish line. So, and of course, it takes the work and effort of the student, and obviously they put that in. I did want to segue a little bit about, Isaac was talking about roadmap, which is really a course curriculum, and there are several very structured six to eight classes that you all take that students take in addition to your core academic classes. You will feel like you have another academic class on top of that, because it's rigorous and it's thoughtfully pulled together, and both of you all obviously have worked through those. My involvement in this, and Isaac and Harini have mentioned this, is I realized that I didn't tell you my role in the CMC. I was too busy talking about being an advisor to the club, because that is exciting, but I'm the sector director for consulting in the Career Management Center, and we work very closely together. I do town halls with the students, so I kick off very early and get them so they know me, and then our whole team in the CMC delivers a lot of important career coursework for students when you first start in that August time frame. I think they get on campus in July and really start in earnest in August, and so we have a real team effort here with the CMC, all of whom my colleagues are quite steeped in a deep knowledge of the career search and of the effort and the just defined wanting to help people have meaning and purpose in it. But back to more of what I do in the club. So I do a lot of events integrated within the club and that help the students. I try to put them in sequence as I see that their particular recruitment is happening. So there's a lot of coordinated effort with the club leadership. We also have a lot of other things they haven't mentioned. I will tee this off a little bit, like weekend cities visits and things of that nature that they were able to get to know people at the firms a little more and even get to go into the firm offices. I don't know if you all want to talk about that. But
yeah, sure. Yeah. I can talk about weekend cities. I think it was a very good opportunity for me to visit the firms. So just to give a little bit of context, first-year students who are recruiting for consulting have an option to visit a particular location in which the firms, all of the firms are spread across North American offices. So you can pick a location that you are leaning towards a little bit more. It's especially a great opportunity for international students like me because we really don't know much, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I didn't know much about the city I was trying to recruit into. So I think visiting the city and the fact that DMCC and CMC has a very strong pipeline with these firms, I don't think it was difficult at all for us to make those connections and visit. I led the trek to Chicago this October, and it was so easy and so straightforward to have these conversations with the firms, to actually line them up and being able to visit them one after the other. I know that the rest of the team that visited Chicago found it extremely beneficial. And this was a great way for me to meet these firms and really get a little bit more face time and strengthen your networking, which pays dividends in the long run for us, for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as you guys can tell, Harini is one of the superstars here. Not only was she trying to get into consulting herself, but she also helped organize one of the events to lead other people to Chicago. But one other thing I think is important to mention is the CMC works with you through the entire end-to-end of your, not only the application process, but also getting into the industry. And I think that's a very important thing to point out. So the CMC is going to help you think about, not only getting, to the interview and getting an offer, but even if you happen to have multiple offers and you're trying to think about which one do you go for, you are assigned like an advisor that essentially helps you think about your priorities, what's best for you, and helps you make that decision. So essentially, like I said earlier, it's a very structured process, and you would never really feel like you have to go through it alone. There's always support to help you make those decisions.
Yeah, yes, I appreciate that, Isaac. We have a large team on the daytime side. We have a number of people in the office that help across populations. But to what Isaac said, for example, I've had the pleasure of doing one-on-one appointments with each of these students and digging into their interest in consulting, but also we talk about years after that. You want to look at your 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 year goals. How does this particular experience fit into these, and even opportunities when you exit out of consulting. So there's a lot of, as Isaac said, and I appreciate that, Isaac, end-to-end work. Well, we have a couple of questions come in, so I thought we might, thank you all. Do you suggest any pre-MBA courses or certifications for prospective students who want to break into consulting?
Harini, do you have any ideas?
Pre-MBA courses, I'm just trying to think. I think, so Duke gives a prescribed pre-MBA, like the bunch of courses, just to get used to the core courses that we come here. Apart from that, I would say nothing at all. Something that second-year students and the current first-year and second-year students do proactively is reach out to the incoming students, admitted students, to extend support. I know that my affinity club had mentors for us coming in, so those who are part of DMCC as well. I had these connections from before I came in. I would just engage with them periodically to sort of warm up to this so that I don't come here and feel completely unfamiliar. I do not think that, I did not do any specific pre-MBA courses, and I think that sort of reinforces how comprehensive support is available in school, that once you come in, if you're all in and if you're focused and you leverage all the resources available, that sets you up sufficiently. What do you think?
To Harini's point, I don't think you need to do any pre-MBA preparation. But I mean, depending on how comfortable you are with the core curriculum. So Duke has this thing called, I believe, MBA MAP, which is a requirement for every MBA student. You have to prepare that before you come here, and that kind of prepares you for like thinking, I guess, in a level that's expected for most of your core courses. But if you feel really uncomfortable with some of the required, I guess, competencies to get into recruiting. For example, if you want to practice case math and things like that, there are a number of resources that you can employ individually, but they are not required. One very popular one that I see people use is Rocket Blocks.
Oh, yes.
And I guess another one is MBA Consultant.
There's a management consultant.
Management consultant.
Right,
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And those are two supplemental ways to help students feel more confident with different aspects of case preparation, and not, with the quantitative side too, but there's a lot of qualitative, side that we have to take into it. Thank you. Now, one other question we had, so thank you for that, is could Isaac share some insights on some things he noticed that may negatively impact recruitment? And Michael, I appreciate this question. I don't want to speak for you, just I want to be sure we're clarifying, and I know the question is directed to Isaac as well. I have an idea about what I think you're asking, but you can come back and ask us this. When I think of negatively impacting recruitment, I feel, and I'll reframe that a little bit. When I see students, a lot of times we're learning what the U.S. Networking process is like, and it's a real paradigm shift if we're coming to a country that has, a lot of it is networking and it's building advocates, and that might not be something we're quite as comfortable with, some of us. So I think, trying to get your sea legs, trying to understand what that is like is important, because if we are, and I mean doing that in a very genuine and authentic way, not just, running around talking to a lot of people from one firm. That's not really it. It's just understanding the genuineness of building relationships. Consulting is a very relationship-based industry, and I think some of what I've seen people that has set them back is not quite understanding that importance. So, and that has in turn impacted their recruitment. But again, Michael, please follow up if we have not answered that properly. Hello, thank you for hosting this session. We're happy to do. I was wondering, given some of the cases in the casebook, some of them are quantitative, do you recommend DMCC members get the Certificate of Academic Excellence in Finance?
For the purpose of the casing, I would not say at all. I also just want to add to the previous thing that we said. The core courses in the Duke curriculum, especially the ones that are in Fall 1 and Fall 2, they really help you with the case prep that comes up, because I am someone who has not had any exposure to finance or business concepts in the past, and I did not feel like I was lacking by the time the case interviews came around for me, which was in January. I felt like I was sufficiently aware of the basic concepts that I needed to. I definitely say you don't need any additional finance specifically. If anything, I think, like she said, like MB was saying, a lot of qualitative preparation, focusing on your communication and, asking the right questions, being engaged and active listener. These are things that really help sort of polish your communication skills, is what I would say.
Yeah. And to that point, I've never met anyone who did this certification before coming here. And a lot of people who actually got multiple offers from, the top consulting firms did their first cases here at Duke. So you don't have to do all of that, get a certification. Obviously, if you already have it, or if it's something you want to get for yourself, please go ahead, but it's not required for casing.
Great answers here. And if it's something you want for professional development, but it's certainly not necessary. How does the FCCP tie into DMCC recruitment?
I'm doing the FCCP right now. FCCP is something that starts in the spring, which is right now. So we have our spring one right now. I think the way that FCCP helps with consulting in general, it gives you an idea of what you can expect during the summer, just like a little bit of a teaser, because you get to work with external clients with a group of people. So you have to figure out how you're working in a group, how you split work streams. Apart from that, I would say that it's not directly tied to the DMCC's programming or recruiting in any way.
Just like Harini said, I've actually seen a lot of people who are not interested in working in consulting take the FCCP because it helps them build, this, I guess, consulting toolkit that is transferable across industries. So, for example, structuring a problem, asking the right questions, working with stakeholders, being comfortable with incomplete information, all of that, all of those scenarios that you very likely face in any career or any occupation. Those are some of the skills that FCC helps you build. But again, it's not required for getting an offer or doing, going the consulting route. It might be helpful, but it's definitely not required.
And I think during, you meet so many wonderful people and help, and these students are able to really provide help to local organizations and even organizations across the nation and the world. But thank you for that question. If I want to do pre-MBA recruiting, do I get support from the club or the CMC for this process? I can take that. We did some AMA sessions several weeks ago, Ask Me Anything, about pre-MBA and things of this nature. And certainly, if you all are engaging in any of that, a lot of it's more educational. And then if you happen to involve yourself in something that does have an interview come up, the firms are there to help you be successful in that process. And of course, you can reach out to the CMC, and I will certainly help you with behavioral interview, and we'll be able to help with some of the case help. But a lot of that too is going to be what the firms can do for you in that process, given that they are the ones setting up these interviews for you. But certainly, I don't know if you all have gone through any of that, and if you want to talk about that.
I actually recruited pre-MBA. So yes, everything that MB said definitely applies. And another thing that you might want to do is just reach out to second-year students, current first-year students as well. I remember casing with a lot of second-year students and first-year students at the time, even before I came to campus, and it was very helpful. People here are very open, always ready to help. So feel free to reach out to people on LinkedIn, code emails, and things like that, and you'll get some help.
Yeah, and that's an important point, Isaac. And if you don't know, I was just going to say, but LinkedIn is a great way to find people. And I can also help you with locating second years. The first years will be on their internships, and many of them will be starting that. They're also obviously a wonderful resource. The second years are probably the ones we might rely on a bit because they might be freed up from before they start their full-time work. But at the end of the day, just reach out and we'll help you with that. I think that's a good point. Can you, how have you been able to apply your coursework and insights from the classroom during the recruitment process and your actual internship experience?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I can start. So everything you learn in the MBA program is designed to make you a better business leader. And a lot of the cases you're going to learn. So the MBA, at least at Duke, we do, I would say 50, 60%, 70% of the class learning is very case-based. So a lot of the cases you're going to be working on are actual real-life events that happen at different corporations. And so you get to, get that first-person seat, front-row seat to think about these business problems, analyze them in the way that you would have if you were in that seat. And that helps you train, your consulting toolkit, problem-solving, structuring, all of that. And then when you go into your internship, you see that you're way comfortable with a lot of the concepts and applications that will be required of you. I think that's a good question. Irene, do you have anything to add?
Actually, you pretty much summarized everything. I can just speak to the actual interview process as well. Like I said, topics in economics, topics in marketing, strategy, finance were directly applicable to many of the cases I got, even live cases I got during the interviews. I remember being able to recall what I learned in class. And it was only because I was present in class, participating, engaging with that content that I was able to sort of recall that. And I feel like if not for the class, I would not have known those concepts. So for sure, it directly ties into what employers expect of you to have as basic knowledge before you dive into very specific problems.
Yeah, I was just going to add one quick thing that I forgot. There's this course that we take at Fuqua called BCA.
Yes, yes.
It's super helpful. I think it's business computer applications. It teaches you everything you need to know about like computer applications. So think about Excel, think about Power BI, Alteryx, all of those applications that you would very likely use in a business setting in real life. You're going to go through a structured curriculum that assumes that you have zero knowledge about these topics. And so you finish that course feeling very confident and very equipped to go into interviews and your internship and perform.
One thing I did want to key back on, and I appreciate this for both of you. Harini talked about engagement in class, and you're here to learn. Obviously, you want to have an opportunity, a wonderful career opportunity upon graduation. But going to class and paying attention in class, my thought is you all want to learn and understand things as much as possible because that's part of what your interests are. But absorbing that material helps you in these cases and in these interviews. So taking all of that very seriously is important. Now, I have a question. We talked a little bit about pre-MBA programs. Allison, would you recommend applying or enrolling in those? Obviously, Isaac had a really good experience with his. I will say we're so fortunate that all the major players recruit with Duke. So I've had so many people that have enjoyed their summers. Some people work almost right up until they come to school and they just don't have time for it. Others need the break between your full-time job and here. So there are many people that don't apply or enroll in those programs. But so that is something that is not a have or a must do. You're very fortunate to have these firms here on campus for you to get to know when you come. So that will be to me a great thing to know that you don't have to worry about that. Does an applicant with a non-consulting background have an equal chance with others? Yeah, as I said earlier, consulting takes all backgrounds. So having non-consulting experience that's not a concern at all. And it's just having an appetite for learning, understanding using your critical thinking skills, learning how to structure a problem. I mean, just having an interest and curiosity, because consulting is such an environment where there's constant learning and constant movement. It's fast. So really, if you bring in all the skills that you will just bring in anyway, that I don't think you will not have to have a consulting background at all. I also know that we're almost out of time, so I want to be sure. Let's see. How about this? Students and alumni have shared how Team Fuqua's support was critical through the rigors of consulting recruiting. What are your favorite stories or experiences on this? Maybe this is almost a nice one to conclude on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, while Harini thinks about a story, I can just go. Like I said, I recruited pre-MBA, and I was connecting with people at Duke and at Fuqua even before I resumed here, right? And people were creating time on their schedule to talk to me and case with me. I remember there was someone in the MBA who was graduating, and he had no reason to help me, honestly. And he was clearing his calendar to speak to me twice every week for 6 weeks. So I have awesome stories about connecting with alums, second years. Team Fuqua is real here. One of the things I've heard people say over and over again is people actually are committed to helping you and have first-hand experiences about that. But curious to see what Harini thinks.
I can talk. I was thinking I have so many, but I think one of the ones that's really stuck out to me, of course, as soon as I came in, I reached out to whoever I thought I can take help from. And one of the students I reached out, second-year students that I reached out to, she responded immediately and she said, as soon as summer term is over for me, I'll help you out. And exactly like Isaac said, she had no reason necessarily to spend time because we get a lot of structured resources. We have career fellows, case parents, we have women mentors for those who are a part of the Women in Business Club. But she helped me from day one until the day the interviews were done. I remember her reviewing my resume for me. I remember her reviewing my networking basic networking practices. She was helping me with my tell me about yourself.
Yeah, that's a big
She was the first person to case me, and she cased me so many times through the process. And she would proactively tell me, set up more time, let's do this, let's polish this. And when I got some firm-specific answers, she said, okay, now we will start doing firm-specific cases. She shared books that she had purchased at the time of her recruitment, and the amount of time that she spent just willingly, I think even without me asking, one of my, like a core memory for me from Team Fuqua, something that I did not expect and something that I felt very fortunate to get. And that's just one example. Like if I had to start listing, I have so many people who have given hours and hours of their time for nothing specific in return. But I think the bottom line of this is it kind of goes on. They do this for us, we do this for the incoming students, and it's just the legacy that passes on. Yeah.
Well, I think that is a wonderful question to end on, and I really want to thank Harini and Isaac for being here today. Again, such a joy to know you all and work with you. And we also want to thank you all for tuning in today as well to the DMCC Virtual Information Session. If you have additional questions, please, reach out to admissions, certainly around other questions around coming into Duke. But we are so delighted that you joined us today, and we hope that this information provided you with answers to really important questions. So thank you again.
Thank you for joining.